destroys the frigates with their land attack missiles and its impact on the adversary. But the Prime Minister's Diwali with sailors on board the aircraft carrier triggered a massive political battle, with parallels being drawn with late Rajiv Gandhi's 1987 Lakshadweep holiday, with INS Virat, then newly inducted into the Indian Navy, in attendance.
A Diwali at sea followed by a storm on shore. Prime Minister Modi's Diwali on deck at INS Vikrant has sparked a political firestorm. This Diwali, Prime Minister Modi once again chose the company of India's warriors over the comfort of his home. Celebrating the festival of lights aboard India's pride, INS Vikrant, he lauded the Navy's valor, saying INS Vikrant's name is enough to give sleepless nights to Pakistan, and hailed the Indian Navy, crediting it for bringing Pakistan to its knees during Operation Sindoor.
अभी कुछ ही महीने पहले हमने देखा है, विक्रांत ने अपने नाम से ही पूरे पाकिस्तान की रातों की नींद उड़ा दी थी। तीनों सेनाओं के जबरदस्त समन्वय ने ऑपरेशन सिंदूर में पाकिस्तान को इतनी जल्दी घुटने टेकने पर मजबूर कर दिया था।
Following this, the BJP hit out hard at the Congress, drawing a sharp contrast between Modi and past prime ministers. The party alleged that Congress PMs used Navy warships for themselves and their families, while Prime Minister Modi showed India how to find families among our warriors. The Saffron Party further accused Congress leaders of misusing national assets, reminding them of the 1987 Lakshadweep vacation when Rajiv Gandhi allegedly used INS Virat as a family yacht.
The Gandhi-Vadra family historically has always compromised India's national interest and national security. That is why they've been soft on Pakistan, holiday on naval carriers, and do not act against India's enemies.
Congress hit back sharply, with its MP Tariq Anwar saying comparisons were misplaced. He argued Rajiv Gandhi travelled with his family like any world leader, adding that Modi celebrates his soldiers only because he doesn't have a family of his own.
फौजियों के साथ बनाया अच्छी बात है, लेकिन किस हालत में बनाया ये तो देखना पड़ेगा ना। भाई जिसका परिवार ही ना हो, जिसके बच्चे ना हो, तो करेगा क्या? उनके पास परिवार नहीं है तो उसका लाभ उठा रहे हैं वो, और सैनिकों के साथ या जो हमारे सेना कर्मी हैं उनके साथ अगर वो बना रहे हैं तो अच्छी बात है। हम उसको बुरा नहीं कहेंगे, लेकिन ये उनकी मजबूरी है।
As Prime Minister Modi's Diwali message from the seas celebrates service and sacrifice, on land, the political fireworks show no signs of fading. Bureau Report, India Today.
In 1987, Virat had just been inducted into the Indian Navy, recommissioned after having been decommissioned as HMS Hermes from the Royal Navy. Within months of induction, the aircraft carrier battle group, according to allegations, was diverted and used as a taxi. Before we dive into this political debate, joining me on India First is Commander V.K. Jaitley, then Lieutenant Jaitley, the weapons maintenance officer on board INS Virat. Sir, welcome.
Thank you.
You were then a young weapons officer on board Virat. What are your memories of your deployment around Lakshadweep Island and Rajiv Gandhi and family being there, sir?
My memories goes back to end December when Rajiv Gandhi and Sonia Gandhi and a few more people, they landed on INS Virat, stayed overnight on INS Virat. The room which is reserved for the flag officer was converted into a family room. Normally, we have single beds in every room. So that was converted into a family room. So obviously, a lot of expenditure on that also. They stayed overnight. And then they went to Bangaram Island. And Virat was not alone. Virat was sailing along with maybe around 8 or 9 more ships. And then, of course, a number of aircrafts also on board INS Virat. And, when Virat used to sail for even one day, it cost a lot of money. And it
Yes.
was at Anchorage and going around a little bit for almost 8 or 9 days, if I remember correctly. So I think it was a great misuse of the national resources, the defense resources, naval resources for the holiday trip of around total 25 people around. I'm just making a guess of around 25.
Okay.
So maybe
this
more.
wasn't operational deployment of Virat. As a weapons officer and as a young weapons officer, would you have known whether this was routine deployment around Lakshadweep at that time, or was Virat diverted because then Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi and his family were coming for a vacation, sir?
Virat was totally diverted for this particular mission of a holiday trip of the number one family of the country. I'm very sure about that. There were no exercises. Maybe minor sailing extra here, there could be there, quite possible. But the whole thing was fashioned or organized for their holiday trip. I'm very clear about that.
And this wasn't just INS Virat. I believe it had just been inducted as a newly inducted warship. Of course, after having been decommissioned as a Royal Navy aircraft carrier, all the
HMS
aircraft that
Hermes.
were HMS Hermes, Her Majesty's ship Hermes. Sir, would all the aircraft carriers, battle group components, destroyers, frigates, submarine, tankers, hepters, would they be already exercising together? Were they meshing in together? Were they getting to know each other? And was this a diversion from that into a family vacation, let's say if it was for 10 days or more?
See, the ship came from UK, if I remember correctly, exactly on 17 September 1987. And this holiday trip happened somewhere on 28 December 1987. So during this period also, INS Virat was quite busy doing exercises with many other ships. So this period of around 8 to 10 days, whatever it was, obviously it was disturbance for the normal routine jobs of the ship and the Navy. Every resources, all resources were diverted for this particular job. And those days we were young lieutenant, we felt, oh, fine, good, Prime Minister's here on the ship. We were very happy, in fact, to be very frank. But later on, when we look back, we say, oh my God, it was a misuse, great misuse of the national resources. So, which shouldn't have happened. But fact is, those days it did happen.
So why was the Virat diverted in your view? What was it being used for? Why was an aircraft carrier battle group required if they were vacationing on the Bangaram Island?
The sailing on Virat was a very prestigious thing those days. It had just come, the biggest ship of the Indian Navy that time, and just came from UK. Everybody wanted to come on board. And they wanted to, in fact, stay overnight. And they stayed overnight. They stayed overnight. That's what I said. The flag officer's cabin was converted into a family cabin. Again, a lot of resources were used. And let me tell you, the preparation started almost 1 month before for their visit. At least 1 month. Because we were part of making those arrangements on the ship also. Ki isko change karo, do this, do that. So all those things were there. And when they were holidaying also, कभी aircraft में beer जा रही है, कभी chicken जा रहा है, whole day they were doing sorties from the ships. So whatever they wanted, it was at their beck and call after the Prime Minister of India. So it was their, like a personal navy.
Am I to understand, sir, are you saying that the halos, the hepters, the helicopters, the Chetaks were being used to ferry beer and chicken to the island from the galley of the ship?
Yes, sir, very much, very much. I do remember very categorically, let me tell you. And if somebody denies that, I'll say they are telling lies.
And the ship, I'm told, has a very well-stocked bar. I've had the privilege of sailing
Of
on
course.
board INS Virat a couple of times.
Yes, very well stocked. Virat was a very big ship with around 1,500 crew on the ship. So obviously our bar was also very well equipped with foreign liquors and everything. So even that was at their disposal. After all, the Prime Minister of India.
And his
And those
foreign
the Prime
guests and his...
Minister.
And I believe there was a very famous film star and family and others. The ship's galley, the ship's kitchen was actually serving food to the VVIP guests, and helicopters were ferrying it to the island.
Yes. Now, you know, how much it was being served from the galley of the ship, I'm not very much aware. But when they stayed overnight, Rajiv Gandhi and Sonia Gandhi, both of them together, there were a few more guests, maybe 5 to 10. But on the Bangaram Island, there were many people who reached directly there on the island. Like the film hero you were talking about, they didn't come on the ship. They went directly to the island. So many people went directly to the island, and some sailed on the ship. They came from, I think, Trivandrum by Hello, landed on the ship, and then the ship sailed towards Bangaram. And then when it was near at the anchorage, from there again they flew in a helicopter and landed at the island.
Sir, would you want to hazard a guess what would have been the cost of such deployment then? The aircraft carrier, like you said, has more than 1,500 sailors on board, and if the Prime Minister was on board, the tanker, the aircraft carrier battle group, the submarines, additional helos coming in, additional resources coming in, what would have been the cost?
It will be, you know, it's a very wild guess, it will be hundreds of crores per day. Hundreds of crores per day. Because the fuel itself it consumes is huge. And again, not one ship, so many ships. And if you calculate the cost of the naval personnel who are deployed on these 8 to 10 ships, the cost will go much higher, much higher. It was definitely a total misuse of national resources.
Sir, and when you look at what's happening currently, the Prime Minister's day at sea, or the Prime Minister spending Deepavali with troops on board INS Vikrant, there are some who say that the Prime Minister doesn't have a family, so what would he do? He would spend time with sailors. What impact does that have on the morale of sailors or airmen or troops when he spends every Diwali with them?
See, there's a marked difference with the current Prime Minister and the Prime Minister of those days. The current Prime Minister has been celebrating all his Diwalis since 2014 with the troops. Starting from Siachen Glacier, the first one which he celebrated in 2014, the highest battlefield in the world. And this time he celebrated with the naval sailors, because all the earlier celebrations, mainly they were with the Army, ITBP, BSF and those. Except one which was in the Gujarat Kutch area, Creek. There some naval people had joined, but mainly it was with the army. So this time he decided to celebrate with the naval people on INS Vikrant. I'll say the morale of the sailors, officers, everybody goes very high when the Prime Minister of India himself with his own hands feeds the sweets in the mouth of some of the sailors, the junior most.
Yes.
Just imagine, they would have never thought that they'll be meeting the Prime Minister of India. It's a great gesture, I will say. Great gesture. So,
sir, stay with me with your permission. Yeah, stay with me with your permission. Let me throw it open for a wider discussion. Joining me now on this broadcast, Wing Commander Anuma Acharya is the spokesperson of the Congress Party. Tuhin Sinha represents the Bharatiya Janata Party. Commander G.J. Singh is an Indian Navy veteran on this show. Also with me, Dr. Vikrant Singh, former Director General of the Uttar Pradesh Police, joining us to talk a little about Red Terror in a moment from now. But sir, feel free to join in. And my colleague Sandeep Unnithan, senior journalist and analyst. And Sandeep, this would be the Navy's perhaps worst kept secret, now out in the open. The galley of Virat being used, for a get-together that was happening on the Lakshadweep island, and halos being used to ferry food and beer.
Well, absolutely, Gaurav. A lot of those details did come out then, it must be said, that the India Today magazine story by Anita Pratap in 1988 did, reveal some of those details. The fact that there seemed to be some element of misuse of the aircraft carrier and the Indian naval resources for what seemed to be very clearly a politician's private holiday with his family and friends and a lot of foreign nationals. But these statements by Commander Jaitley actually, throw open a whole new dimension to that personal family holiday. The fact that so many naval resources were deployed for over a week, and the kind of details that he's given, I mean, it just throws new light onto what is, an entirely avoidable exercise that could have, I think the Prime Minister should have been a little more conscious back then, deploying frontline naval warships, assets for what is very clearly, Gaurav, we have the photographs, it's very clearly a private family holiday for which massive resources, naval resources, warships, carrier battle group, an entire carrier battle group was deployed in and around Lakshadweep. And as Commander Jaitley mentioned, the fact that the Virat seemed to have been used as some kind of a helipad, and helicopters were flying back and forth, as he mentioned, between Bangaram Island and the aircraft carrier. I think it should have been handled better back then. I think better sense should have been prevailed. But, those were the days, Gaurav, and, clearly things have changed a lot since then.
Indeed. Wing Commander Acharya, you've donned the uniform, ma'am. Is there merit in the BJP saying this shows the difference between entitlement, privilege on one side and patriotism on the other, or duty on the other?
My husband is a naval officer, so I have a tri-service in my family, and I must tell you that Prime Minister's visiting aircraft carrier has been our tradition, basically to see the war preparedness as well as motivating our troops. And this has been happening since Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru ji was the Prime Minister. At that time, also in 1950, there are references when he had gone to the naval ships. Srimati Indira Gandhi did go to all the naval ships which were very of the operational importance, like INS Vikrant in 1969, then in 1974 to INS Mysore, and then INS INS Virat also. Also, I must tell you that Mr. Morarji Desai, who was the Prime Minister, he was on INS Shakti in 1979, and a special kind of done cow milk was ferried from the aircraft, by the aircraft to the ship during that time, because he stayed there for a couple of days. So not only the cashew nuts of specific variety and types were brought for him, also the dun cow milk and the goat milk were ferried to that ship. So these are the things which are happening, which have happened. But nobody ridicule it like this. When Mr. Rajiv Gandhi went there, everybody knows, and I don't know, WhatsApp University has really done something very wrong to our veterans, because whatever has been spoken, I was just listening to that, because there was an IDA formed in Lakshadweep, and people have gone there. The island was actually upgraded after that. Infrastructure was created. Lakshadweep became the very first island where computers were installed in each of the offices. The first ones, the planning commission took it because it is not like a mainland development, because that island needed a different kind of a developing. So Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi did spend some time, which was a family holiday, because he had a family. So he spent it there, but it was all those. That's a national responsibility to be there, because you yourself from an army background, you understand that the galley, when you go there for a thing, you are also offered a kind of hospitality, whatever is available. If you say beer, yes, that's an armed forces. People, they offer it on board, even if you go to our uniforms. This Prime Minister has the audacity to wear every
Can I come in now? Enough monologue going on Diwali night.
See, when you told me, you gave me a chance.
Enough of monologue going on. Can I come in now?
No, one by one, ma'am. So you've raised
truth on your program.
Okay, there are multiple points you've raised. Let me bring in Tuhin Sinha to respond to some of what you've said. And Tuhin, I don't want to repeat it since you heard Wing Commander Acharya.
I have more
Of
about
course.
A very happy Diwali to you, Gaurav. A very happy Diwali, Gaurav, to you, to everybody on the show. You know, it is very shocking to see the Congress spokesperson justify the extravagance of Rajiv Gandhi in Lakshadweep on INS Virat. She's justifying that he went with her family for his holiday. Does the family constitute of, please don't barge in, ma'am, have the basic courtesy. Does the family...
You barged in. I haven't started that.
Okay, one by one. Ma'am,
Gaurav,
let
can
Mr.
you
Sinha complete
ask
her
her to
point,
behave
then I'll come
herself,
back to you, ma'am. Go on, sir.
That's better. You know, does a family of Prime Minister constitute of 35 to 40 people, which includes family, friends, which includes relatives from abroad? That's point number one. The whole cost of this extravagant vacation at the cost of India's Navy. Who was bearing the cost? And now, you know, she's justifying that just because he went there, there was development in Lakshadweep. You know, there were 5 lavish vacations of this nature which were undertaken by Rajiv Gandhi during his tenure. That included Andaman. Did he conceive the Great Andaman Project? The Great Andaman Project, in fact, which was conceived, the Great Nicobar Project, which was conceived in 1970, was lying dormant till about 3 or 4 years back. So, I mean, they can justify these vacations, but fact is there were 5 lavish vacations, which included a vacation to Kanha National Park, which included a vacation to Jim Corbett, which included a vacation to Ranthambore.
How many vacation is a good idea, sir?
No. Vacations, 40 people is not a good idea. And since you went there, how many greenfield highways were conceived connecting some of these national parks? So there are 2 points over here. 40 people holidays at the cost of taxpayer is certainly not okay. And secondly, they never gave back enough to these islands or to the places they went to. That's a fact.
Okay, so let me now bring in Dr. Vikram Singh and Commander GJ Singh into this conversation. Absolutely, ma'am. But let me bring in Dr. Vikram Singh for his initial comments. Sir, as a man who's donned the uniform, your take, you've heard both the Congress and the BJP, and you also heard Commander Jaitley, who was a young weapons officer on board INS Virat in 1987. Your conclusion, sir?
Gauravji, you have soldiering in your DNA, and I heard Commodore Jaitley very carefully, every word. Words of profound wisdom firsthand, and there's no politics in Commodore Jaitley's words and or his bearing. I would say there's a difference between picnicking, frolicking, and doing soldiering and raising the morale of the forces. What you do when you raise the morale is exactly what the Prime Minister has done. And picnicking with friends and family at public cost is totally unacceptable. Those who have donned the uniform would understand, Gauravji, that there's a difference between a private affair and a public affair. Please take pains to maintain respectable distance. When you are carrying the family, it is totally a private visit. When it is official, then please also go alone and have an agenda for inspection, Sainik Sammelan, and also what you would like to see about the budget and the battle preparedness. Therefore, I would say that picnic is one thing, frivolous activities are another, and then soldiering, and then who would not like to celebrate Diwali at home in the comfort of their own homes with their friends and loved ones. But it takes a lot of effort to go and spend the time with the soldiers and be with them and eat the frugal meals that they are having. Well, I would say that there is an absurd comparison between the two, and this cannot be compared with pleasure at public cost.
Fair enough. Commander GJ Singh, the ship has an outstanding galley. Kitchen for the, as it's known elsewhere. Food is prepared for about 1,500 sailors at all times. So that galley is operational 24/7. But the point that food was prepared and ferried by chopper for the PM and guests. Now, even if it's marked as an operational training sortie on paper, is that correct, sir? Or is that par for the course? Wing Commander Acharya also mentioned that a special kind of milk was brought in for Morarji Desai. Goat milk was brought in. Special kind of cashew nuts were brought in. So this is par for the course.
Thank you, Gaurav, for first of all having me on the show, and happy Diwali to all the viewers. Let me put some facts straight, because I would like to speak very objectively. When you put the Prime Minister of a country like the Republic of India on a far-off island from the mainland, security of that Prime Minister is the prime responsibility of the Indian Navy. And Indian Navy, being a proud service, will never refuse it. Number two, the organizational capability, the capacity at short notice. Yes, we got this intimation that the Prime Minister will be visiting Bangara Islands. First of all, he was to hold a cabinet meeting there, followed by holidays. And it was just for 2 nights, 3 nights, not more than this. And when it comes to organization capability of Indian Navy, do you think putting up a few generators on the island for lighting is any problem? Can we say to the Prime Minister of India, no, we can't do it? Secondly, naval service is the only service where we have regular person in uniform who are trained cooks at an Samla in Bombay, Mumbai, and the
Yes.
stewards who know how to organize parties, because the parties are not organized unlike in the Army and Air Force. We have a proper Navy orders, Navy instructions as to how to hold the party, how to serve, how to make preparations, which are coming down into the Indian Navy from the British times. So therefore, to organize few cooks at the Bangara island, or for that matter, raising an infrastructure for the Prime Minister of India, of a country as great as India, I think is not a big deal for Indian Navy.
No,
So
but
if
Commander,
Indian Navy
I think
has
Commander Jaitley's point is
carrier
not
group,
the Prime Minister and his immediate family. It's
Gaurav,
about the extended family and 40
I
odd
want to
guests.
tell you,
Is it, you know, for
I want to
foreign
make that
guests,
straight.
the
You
Indian
see,
Navy is
Prime
not the
Minister
Indian Navy.
Rajiv Gandhi had guests. He had
Sir,
Mr.
the Indian
Amitabh
Navy is not the Ashok Hotel. The Indian Navy is not
It
Taj
is not
Palace
a show
Hotel.
hotel. And
You know,
it was not converted into a show hotel. Because,
yeah.
let me tell you, because I was
You know,
on
serving the
Vikrant and
Prime
knew
Minister and his
everything what is
family is one
happening
thing.
there.
Serving foreign
I was in
guests,
service with,
you know,
Gaurav,
is
I was
altogether
in
something else.
service.
But I want to bring in Sandeep Unnithan for a moment before I bring in Commander Jaitley.
No, no,
You know, Commander Jaitley was
let
on
me
board.
add something too.
Sir, give me a
Prime
moment. Let's keep
Minister
this
Rajiv
conversational.
Gandhi
The
was
ship
a
has a
pilot
galley.
himself.
Sure,
He wanted
sure,
to
but he
know
wasn't ferrying the food himself.
the
No, my
vertical
point is,
takeoff
the
and
point
landing
is,
of
if
newly
sir, hear me
installed,
out, Commander, no, Commander G. Singh, hear me out. Yes, we have the concept of Zomato and Swiggy in today's day and age. But if Indian Navy helos were being used as Zomato and Swiggy for an extended party of 35, 40, if, as Commander Jaitley puts it, he was a young officer on board, Sandeep, that would be something else.
Well, absolutely, Gaurav. The issue is not about just the Prime Minister or his immediate family. I'm sure none of this would have actually, attracted any attention had it been just the then Prime Minister and his immediate family. But the fact is, there was a very large component of friends, families, film stars, all of that on the island. And it's very clearly from what Commander Jaitley is saying that a lot of that hospitality was extended by the Navy as well. So I think that is where, you have serious questions being raised on why was the Navy asked to do all of this. It wouldn't have, again, to repeat, it wouldn't have been a problem if the Prime Minister was doing that while he was on vacation. He's entitled to do that. He could well have said he was out there to witness the Indian naval exercises and then he decided to have a family holiday. But then this is clearly not just a family holiday. It was a very exceptional family holiday where a lot of his friends, family from all over the world seem to have come down there and holidayed on the island, and which is when serious questions have been raised as they were then and as Commander Jaitley has raised now. The fact is that there was serious issues of the use of public funds to fund what was clearly, a private family vacation with a lot of extended family and friends flying in. Gaurav.
So, Commander Jaitley, the point that you're making is it's not about the Prime Minister or his family, it's about the larger entourage. Is that the point that you were making, sir?
Correct. See, it's just that the amount of naval resources that were put in place for a holiday trip of the Prime Minister and his friends was enormous. Parties go on, of course. Anybody who comes on the naval ships, we take care of them beautifully in the best possible way. I fully agree with Commander GJ saying that we are equipped with that. We want to take care of the guests and here happens to be the Prime
Serve
Minister.
the government of the
And let
day.
me tell you, even in those days, as a young lieutenant, I didn't find something abnormal. Let me tell you very clearly. We said, yeah, it's a
Yes.
part of our duty. Let's do it. And we were doing it. But now when I look back and see how things have changed over the past few years, now I really feel very sorry how the nation was being looted by some people for so many years, so many years. Our
Now, that's
wing
pretty
commander
strong
Anuma
language.
Acharya said that even earlier Prime Minister used to go, Jawaharlal Nehru used to go. Yes, now I feel it was a misuse of resources. If they are going for a trip for 7 or 8 days, very bad. If they are just going for a day or two, perfectly fine. They are inspecting the troop, perfectly fine. They are accepting their hospitality, perfectly fine. But the whole fleet anchored are going around here and there for full 8 or 10 days, around 9 or 10 ships. This is totally sheer wastage of the naval resources.
Gaurav,
Okay.
I want to make a point here.
Quickly, sir,
If
so
you
that I can bring in
permit me.
Wing Commander Anumacharya also, but go ahead, sir. Complete your point, sir.
You see, what I want to tell you is when a prime minister of the country goes on a faraway island and we have to ensure security, it is not only security of the sea, it is underwater security. We have to place anti-submarine ships there with sonar system because the whole area needs to be sanitized.
Yes.
Aerial sanitation is required. We have to also ensure that there is no aerial threat to the prime minister coming from any hostile aircraft, from any hostile missile. So all these factors have to be taken into calculation. You just can't keep the prime minister there undefended. It has to be
Okay.
defended from all angles. And it is
Okay.
naval's prestige question.
Dr. Vikram
It
Singh
is
has a
question
smile
of
on
the
his face, and
prestige
I'll
of the
come to
Indian
him, but I
Navy.
have to
No
bring in.
naval chief will refuse it.
Okay,
Because
Wing
we
Commander
serve
Gaurav ji, the
Anumacharya.
moot point is,
we
the
serve the
main
government
point
of the
is,
day. He's a prime minister.
was there
And he knew
misuse
his
of government
limits.
funds?
How much
And
to
Okay.
was
use?
there misuse of government funds
Then
when
he came
somebody
to
chooses to
Okay,
have
Narendra.
one by one. Everyone talking at the same
Yeah,
time.
I want to
of
Only
tell
Wing
you,
Commander
Gaurav,
Acharya. Only Wing Commander Acharya for a moment, please. Go on, ma'am.
Couple of things. I have a serious objection to the language family room. The Prime Minister of India is entitled to have his spouse on board either in the aircraft or in any ship, such as our flag of our officers. So
Yes.
that is his entitlement. So you can't call it family room. First time Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee was the one who stayed overnight and the full day on a ship. So he also
Yes.
stayed in the senior-most officer's room. So this
Yes.
kind of language, I have a serious objection to that. Secondly, people are saying that he spent a holiday with the Diwali with the sailors. All I have to say is when you go to Ladakh, find those people are away from their families. But here on Vikrant, people on essential duty would have celebrated, they could have been there on duty and others could have celebrated Diwali, which did not happen because the Prime Minister of India went there. And then, to my information, and since I am a wife of a naval officer, I am again telling you, I have the information day before yesterday, how many ships were around there. So you can't just leave your Prime Minister like that. And then
Yes.
you come to this kind of a this thing, that phenomenal wastage of national resources. Let me ask you, what was that Vantara visit to the in Gujarat? What was that? Was that not wastage of national resources? What was that Dwarka underwater puja by Prime Minister? Was that not a national resources, national wastage of national resources? Then what is that Kedarnath trip when Prime Minister sits there, the entire people cover him? And so far, no prime minister has ever done any mimicry in the dangri like of a uniform and things. This is our prime minister. Even the prime ministers of America, the president of America, when they go for Thanksgiving, they go in their normal blazer. Then if Mr. Rishi Sunak also, when he went for Christmas wishing, he also went in his normal attire. Why Prime Minister has this obsession to every time mimic in our uniform? He's not entitled to wear anything like that. If it is like Amazon, he has purchased from Amazon, then it's a different thing. But it's so T meaning of the armed forces. He should not take us for ride. And then this Prime Minister have been using all kind of resources for all kind of wastage. We do not say anything to him only because somebody has to ridicule our earlier Prime Minister. It's a so shameful. I must tell you that even Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee, when he used to go to Manali, people used to say on a vacation, he used to go every week, every year, for 1 week. People used to say that there is a lot of disturbance to the locals there. So this is a kind of thing. Is it a national debate? What is our discourse?
Let me bring in. Permit me to decide what makes a debate. You can target the opposition, you can target the government and the opposition.
You can't decide
but
that. Mr. Hiren Joshi will decide. You cannot decide that.
Well, you may be taking dictations from somewhere. You may be taking dictations from anywhere. But this is where I will stop you. Tuhin Sinha, you want to respond on the aspect of the Prime Minister wearing uniform or donning the uniform? The Congress party finds it objectionable.
So by donning the uniform, the Prime Minister gives a sense of, please don't come in between, ma'am, have the basic courtesy. By donning the uniform of the armed forces, the Prime Minister gives them a sense of oneness. He's one among them. But let me just streamline the entire discussion with you, since the Congress spokesperson was meandering all over. There are two basic questions. There are two basic questions which remain unanswered by the Congress party. Can the naval assets of the country be used as personal devices to enhance your personal holidays of 40 odd people? That is the question which the Congress has not been able to answer. And the same simple answer over here is no. The second question, can naval officers be used as errands boy no matter what the situation is? Can they be used as errands boy by the Prime Minister of the country? The answer again is unequivocally no. But the Congress's perverse sense of entitlement will not allow them to take a stand on the issue.
Sandeep, does this become the debate, entitlement versus patriotism, as it's being pitched? Is there a Lakshman Rekha that needs to be maintained? Yes, vacation, spend time with the armed forces as any head of state or government, that's your right. However, when there's an extended family in tow, when there are friends in tow, and the Navy is serving them, as Commander Jaitley puts it, instead of, it could have been the ITDC, it could have been the Lakshadweep administration, it could have been any hotel, any private hotel anywhere. But why the Navy, Sandeep?
Absolutely, Gaurav. And that's literally the nub of the issue here. The fact is that there was a very large entourage, and the Navy, very clearly the Navy didn't say no. I think they were just being really nice and polite when they were asked to do what they were asked to do. And like I said, it wouldn't have been an issue if it had just been the Prime Minister and his spouse. These are, par for the course. You have Prime Ministers with their families. They have visited in the past as well. But this one is problematic simply because of that very large entourage that was there on the island. And therefore, the Indian Navy inadvertently seemed to have, as Commander Jaitley mentioned, seemed to have been used to service, that family holiday, a very large family vacation that seemed to have extended for about a week, during which time the Virat carrier battle group was in the vicinity of the Lakshadweep Island. Now, I'm not sure, Gaurav, whether the Prime Minister actually embarked on the Virat and, did the kind of exercises that we saw with Prime Minister Modi here off Karwar. That seemed to be, in the realm of speculation, because even the stories that we saw in India Today magazine back then didn't seem to indicate that the Prime Minister did anything of that sort. He seemed to have spent a lot of time on the island with friends and with family. With every Prime Minister is entitled to a vacation. But, when it comes to spending the resources of the state to look after friends, extended family, especially those who have come in from abroad, it raises several questions.
Sure. But Tuhin Sinha, the point that Commander G.J. Singh makes, Rajiv Gandhi was Prime Minister of India at that point of time. If he was on an island, his protection is the responsibility of the Navy from air, sea and land. If the aircraft carrier battle group was around, they were just carrying out their exercises.
The primary question over here is on the number of people who accompanied him. And by any stretch of imagination, you can do various counts of it. I think there were 35 to 40 people, which is simply not justified. So imagine...
35 to 40.
Sorry? Yeah. So the resources, the kind of resources...
It's an exaggerated figure. They were not more than about 12 to 30.
Exactly.
Okay.
No, there were, I just read even before coming for the show, I have just, gone to the net to do a search. So there were many more than that. But the point is, when you include your extended family, which includes relatives from abroad, when you include a friend's family, obviously that is a wastage of national resources. Nobody is disputing a holiday. Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji used to go on holidays, but those were very private holidays. Those were very frugal holidays. Those were holidays
Okay.
befitting a head of state. These were not the lavish holidays which Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi always went for. And like I said, he never gave back to those places.
Okay.
Did you see?
I want to for a moment, now focus on another part of what the Prime Minister said, equally important. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, while celebrating Diwali with sailors on board INS Vikrant, also spoke of this decisive phase in the war against Red Terror. He hailed the security forces for their courage. The Prime Minister said 125 districts at one point of time were under LWE or left-wing extremism. Now it's barely 10 or 11, and that too, the Home Minister has given a deadline of the 31st of March 2026. That's the time India would be Red Terror free. The Prime Minister spoke of this red corridor that was turning into zones now of green growth. Roads were coming up, schools were coming up, hospitals were coming up, and they were replacing this atmosphere of fear and violence. In fact, the Prime Minister also penned a letter to the country on Deepavali. He said, this Deepavali, it's particularly special. For the first time, lamps are being lit in many districts across the country, including in remote areas. These are the districts where Naxalism and Maoist terrorism have been eradicated from the root. In recent times, we have seen many individuals abandoning the path of violence and joining the mainstream of development, expressing faith in the constitution of the country. And this is a major achievement for the nation. Listen in to the Prime Minister.
मेरे पुलिस बेड़े के इन जवानों को लाख लाख बधाई देता हूं। मैं ऐसे जवानों को जानता हूं जिनके पास अब पैर नहीं है, लेकिन जज्बा वैसा ही है। किसी का हाथ कटा हुआ है, किसी के लिए व्हील चेयर से उतरना मुश्किल हो गया है। मैं ऐसे अनेक परिवारों को जानता हूं जिन्होंने माओवाद नक्सलियों ने उनको शिकार बनाया, हाथ काट दिए, पैर काट दिए, गांव में जीना मुश्किल कर दिया। ऐसे अनगिनत लोगों ने जो सहा है, जो बलिदान दिया है, शांति के लिए, नागरिकों की जिंदगी बेहतर बनाने के लिए, बच्चों का भविष्य उज्जवल हो, स्कूल चले, इसके लिए उन्होंने अपने आप को न्यौछावर कर दिया है। दोस्तों, शायद आजादी के बाद पहली बार पुलिस बेड़े के सामने इतनी बड़ी चुनौती आई, और पिछले 10 साल में 50 साल की इस भयंकर बीमारी को वो खत्म करके रहेंगे, ये मेरा विश्वास है। और 90% केस में वो सफल हो चुके हैं।
Dr. Vikram Singh, you've dealt with LWE at various levels. How would you describe India's achievements? Are we celebrating a bit too soon?
Let me tell you, this appeared to be extremely unrealistic at given point of time. There were 125 districts directly impacted by left-wing extremism. But now there are just about 11 districts, and the residual part is just 3 districts. And it is a matter of tremendous satisfaction and pride that what the paramilitary forces and the police forces have done in a resolute nation has given a befitting reply to the left-wing extremism. And the success would be, obviously, the drive, concerted drive in the guidance, actionable intelligence collection, use of the futuristic technology, state-of-the-art equipment and firearms, and also concerted and unified chain of command towards a purpose what was absolutely considered impossible in the Bastar forest now happened to be the stronghold of a paramilitary forces who have their outpost. And then the area domination is something that Gauravji would make any Indian proud. That today the Home Minister is saying that 31st March 2026 will be the end of Naxalism. This is something that is totally attainable, and I feel that it is a realistic expectation and anticipation, and a project that was seemingly impossible. You had the Jahanabad jailbreak, you had the
Yes.
Dantewada episode, you had the attack on
The Congress
on the
leadership.
former Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh.
Yes.
Yes, and the entire Congress leadership was almost wiped out. That was the level of terror. You had that passing out parades in the Rohtas fort. That was the level of the depredations of the left-wing extremism. And they're saying, 6 inch chota kar denge. If anybody goes
True.
to change chota kar denge, meaning thereby that they'll chop off the necks and then give slogans and also the warnings in the blood of the deceased. That was the terror that we have seen. That was the terror with the villagers lived. And 40%, I may tell you that in 2008, in front of Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, Ajit Dovalji, who was the then director IB, said that India's 40% of the land mass is actually clouded and shrouded by left-wing extremism. That was 2000. And today we have the satisfaction that it is almost finished and is about to be contained 100% by 31st March 2026, Gauravji.
And Sandeep, that's a huge achievement considering 75 CRPF personnel were massacred in one instance, and that was 2010-11, another where the Congress party's leadership in an entire state, virtually the entire leadership was neutralized. And now that left-wing extremism is restricted just to a few pockets, but then urban Naxalism does remain a challenge.
Absolutely, Gaurav. You know, very few people seem to understand the enormity of what we faced almost 20 years back when the Prime Minister of the day, Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, 20 years back said that they were the most serious threat to India's internal security. And, you know, unlike the other insurgencies, Gaurav, like in Punjab, in Jammu and Kashmir, Mizoram, Nagaland, those insurgencies were restricted to one single state. But the red insurgency that we saw was extended across a dozen states. It was like a massive red corridor that they were talking about, starting from Nepal right down to
Karnataka.
Tamil Nadu, going, you know, encompassing Andhra Pradesh, what is now Telangana, all of these states. It was a massive insurgency where, you know, these militants, they were massing in the thousands. You know, every other insurgency has seen dozens of militants attacking security forces. Here they were massing in companies and battalions. They were fighting like conventional outfits. 10,000, more than 10,000 soldiers is what the CPI Maoist fielded at one point. And from then, Gaurav, today, 20 years later, they're down to just a few hundred fighters. As Vikrant Singh sir said, they've just come down to 2 or 3 districts. Their commander was killed in the field a couple of months back, Basavaraj. It's the first time that an insurgency is seen, a commander being killed in the field. That's
and then Bhupati surrendering with weapons.
Absolutely. Venugopal surrendered with his weapons. Now it's a matter of time. So we are actually living through a very historic time, Gaurav, when we're seeing the single largest threat to India's internal security being crushed. But there are issues of, as you mentioned, urban Naxals. This is a very, very potent movement. It is an ideology, Gaurav. It's not just a movement. It's not about tribals in the forest. These are people with extensive connects, not just internally, but across the world. This is an ideology. This is the ideology of Maoism. This is the ideology of red terror. They plan to do in India what Mao Zedong did in China many decades ago.
And we'll be tracking that story very, very closely. So it is very close to victory, but it's still not victory yet. We'll be tracking this story because this is a story that needs to be told to future generations. I want to thank all my guests for joining me here on this part of India First. But we'll have lots more on red terror, the war against red terror, and on urban Naxals in days and weeks ahead. A quick break. Big story coming up on the other side of these messages. On board INS Vikrant, India's indigenous aircraft carrier on Diwali, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said just a few months ago, India witnessed how the very name Vikrant sent waves of fear across Pakistan. The Prime Minister underscored the psychological and strategic impact of the aircraft carrier battle group along the western seaboard with the aircraft carrier, the aircraft, the submarines, the destroyers, the frigates with their land attack missiles and its impact on the adversary. But the Prime Minister's Diwali with sailors on board the aircraft carrier triggered a massive political battle, with parallels being drawn with late Rajiv Gandhi's 1987 Lakshadweep holiday, with INS Virat, then newly inducted into the Indian Navy, in attendance.
A Diwali at sea followed by a storm on shore. Prime Minister Modi's Diwali on deck at INS Vikrant has sparked a political firestorm. This Diwali, Prime Minister Modi once again chose the company of India's warriors over the comfort of his home. Celebrating the festival of lights aboard India's pride, INS Vikrant, he lauded the Navy's valor, saying INS Vikrant's name is enough to give sleepless nights to Pakistan, and hailed the Indian Navy, crediting it for bringing Pakistan to its knees during Operation Sindoor.
अभी कुछ ही महीने पहले हमने देखा है विक्रांत ने अपने नाम से ही पूरे पाकिस्तान की रातों की नींद उड़ा दी थी। तीनों सेनाओं के जबरदस्त समन्वय ने ऑपरेशन सिंदूर में पाकिस्तान को इतनी जल्दी घुटने टेकने पर मजबूर कर दिया था।
Following this, the BJP hit out hard at the Congress, drawing a sharp contrast between Modi and past prime ministers. The party alleged that Congress PMs used Navy warships for themselves and their families, while Prime Minister Modi showed India how to find families among our warriors. The Saffron Party further accused Congress leaders of misusing national assets, reminding them of the 1987 Lakshadweep vacation when Rajiv Gandhi allegedly used INS Virat as a family yacht.
The Gandhi Vadra family historically has always compromised India's national interest and national security. That is why they've been soft on Pakistan, holiday on naval carriers, and do not act against India's enemies.
Congress hit back sharply, with its MP Tariq Anwar saying comparisons were misplaced. He argued Rajiv Gandhi travelled with his family like any world leader, adding that Modi celebrates with soldiers only because he doesn't have a family of his own.
फौजियों के साथ बनाया अच्छी बात है, लेकिन किस हालत में बनाया ये तो देखना पड़ेगा ना। भाई जिसका परिवार ही ना हो, जिसके बच्चे ना हो, तो करेगा क्या? उनके पास परिवार नहीं है तो उसका लाभ उठा रहे हैं वो, और सैनिकों के साथ या जो हमारे सेना कर्मी हैं उनके साथ अगर वो बना रहे हैं तो अच्छी बात है। हम उसको बुरा नहीं कहेंगे, लेकिन ये उनकी मजबूरी है।
As Prime Minister Modi's Diwali message from the seas celebrates service and sacrifice, on land, the political fireworks show no signs of fading. Bureau Report, India Today.
In 1987, Virat had just been inducted into the Indian Navy, recommissioned after having been decommissioned as HMS Hermes from the Royal Navy. Within months of induction, the aircraft carrier battle group, according to allegations, was diverted and used as a taxi. Before we dive into this political debate, joining me on India First is Commander V.K. Jaitley, then Lieutenant Jaitley, the weapons maintenance officer on board INS Virat. Sir, welcome.
Thank you.
You were then a young weapons officer on board Virat. What are your memories of your deployment around Lakshadweep Island and Rajiv Gandhi and family being there, sir?
My memories goes back to end December when Rajiv Gandhi and Sonia Gandhi and a few more people, they landed on INS Virat, stayed overnight on INS Virat. The room which is reserved for the flag officer was converted into a family room. Normally, we have single beds in every room. So that was converted into a family room. So obviously, a lot of expenditure on that also. They stayed overnight. And then they went to Bangaram Island. And Virat was not alone. Virat was sailing along with maybe around 8 or 9 more ships. And then, of course, a number of aircrafts also on board INS Virat. And when Virat used to sail for even one day, it cost a lot of money. And it
Yes.
was at Anchorage and going around a little bit for almost 8 or 9 days, if I remember correctly. So I think it was a great misuse of the national resources, the defense resources, naval resources for the holiday trip of around total 25 people around. I'm just making a guess of around 25.
Okay.
So maybe
this
more.
wasn't operational deployment of Virat. As a weapons officer and as a young weapons officer, would you have known whether this was routine deployment around Lakshadweep at that time, or was Virat diverted because then Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi and his family were coming for a vacation, sir?
Virat was totally diverted for this particular mission of a holiday trip of the number one family of the country. I'm very sure about that. There were no exercises. Maybe minor sailing extra here, there could be there, quite possible. But the whole thing was fashioned or organized for their holiday trip. I'm very clear about that.
And this wasn't just INS Virat. I believe it had just been inducted as a newly inducted warship. Of course, after having been decommissioned as a Royal Navy aircraft carrier, all the
HMS
aircraft that
Hermes.
were HMS Hermes, Her Majesty's ship Hermes. Sir, would all the aircraft carriers, battle group components, destroyers, frigates, submarine, tankers, hepters, would they be already exercising together? Were they meshing in together? Were they getting to know each other? And was this a diversion from that into a family vacation, let's say if it was for 10 days or more?
See, the ship came from UK, if I remember correctly, exactly on 17 September 1987. And this holiday trip happened somewhere on 28 December 1987. So during this period also, INS Virat was quite busy doing exercises with many other ships. So this period of around 8 to 10 days, whatever it was, obviously it was disturbance for the normal routine jobs of the ship and the Navy. Every resources, all resources were diverted for this particular job. And those days we were young lieutenant, we felt, oh, fine, good, Prime Minister's here on the ship. We were very happy, in fact, to be very frank. But later on, when we look back, we say, oh my God,